So today I want to talk about the reason why I choose to tell people I have hair loss and wear wigs. It's not for everybody. It's certainly not something I did the entire time that I've had hair loss. I've had hair loss for 25 years. I've worn wigs for 12 years. Of course, this is a wig on my head. And it took quite a while to get to the point of finding the strength and the freedom to be able to do that. But when I did, I found that it freed me in so many ways that I never really thought possible. I lived a hostage to my hair loss for so long. I lived in so much fear, fear of people finding out, fear of overhead lighting, fear of the perception of others. I'm going to get this back on and continue on with my story. Is my wig on straight? So, why do I choose to tell people I have hair loss? Why do I choose to tell people I wear wigs? Why am I very open about that at this point in my life and have been for quite some time? I lived basically a hostage to my hair loss in so many regards since I began losing my hair in 1999 when I was 21 years old. I lived in fear all the time, fear of what my situation was, fear of how far my hair loss would progress, fear of mirrors, fear of overhead lighting, fear of what other people could tell. If I could tell, other people must be able to tell. Even though that wasn't actually true for quite some time, it still was a fear of mine. And I lived in a constant state of heightened anxiety. And I have anxiety anyways. So this just added to it. I think this is a side note. I think I always had anxiety, social anxiety, generalized anxiety, but having hair loss just kind of amped it up to new degrees because, over the years I became more of a recluse, more of a hermit, and wanted to just not be around people, or be so concerned when I was around people. But that's a different conversation. I ended up having to get therapy for that, to even try to get back to having a life after finding wigs and finding a way to make this work. I had to work to actually be able to exist in the world. One of the biggest things for people in general, and was certainly for me, is you're starting to do something different. Hair, it's such a big thing. What will people think if they know I'm wearing a wig? Will they be able to tell I'm wearing a wig? Are they going to be staring? I had so many concerns about this that I realized that after I started wearing wigs, I was never, ever going to be able to make this work long term in my life if I was going to constantly having to be living under the thumb of somebody finding out. So it wasn't like it wasn't like a decision I guess I made overnight, but this also sort of coincided with the time that I was actually getting therapy for my anxiety, for social anxiety. And it wasn't a conscious decision, but part of what you learn in social anxiety is, assertiveness, also exposure therapy. And I don't think I consciously was applying it to my wig life, but I was as well, to try to overcome the hurdle of that. Like, for example, exposure therapy. Let's say I couldn't go to a Starbucks or be in there because I'd freak out, like have a panic attack. Exposure therapy would be going there sometimes with the uses of medication to increase the amount of time you can be in that environment. Let's say it's 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, however long. You increase the duration of time that you can do this, and you do this in different scenarios until your body becomes more adapted. And if you're using medication, then they pull back the medication. But sometimes Xanax and stuff like that is used to assist in this, facilitate this process. But anyways, I was like, I'm just going to really bite the bullet in every possible way that I could. I started with, telling friends, of course, very nervous, then telling my family, super nervous about that as well. Incrementally, first I went down the row of everybody that I felt needed to know in my life. And then I expanded that to random strangers. I saw every person I met almost as an opportunity to, mention it. If it came up that I like your hair, or your hair looks good, I would say it's a wig. Sometimes they didn't ask and I would tell them it's a wig. I would find a way to bring it up in a conversation with random strangers like at bars or restaurants, and wasn't to elicit a reaction. It was just to get it out there to see what would happen. Oftentimes people were like, no way, or they couldn't believe that was the situation. And I would have them like touch the back of my head to feel where the wig grip was, or I'd flip an ear tab. And I did this, and some people may be thinking this is absolutely insane. Like, why would you go and do that to, like, why would you tell random strangers? this was helping me to build that muscle stronger in my life, to not live in fear. The more times that I told people, the more I saw the reaction that wasn't as horrifying as I thought it would be, or whatever I had made up in my head, the stronger I got. The more I did it, the stronger I got. And then it became basically almost like I don't know if it became, I don't want to say it was fun. It became a challenge for me to just be able to go out and do just that. Share with, however many people I was wearing a wig, and then of course, when you tell people you wear a wig, they will ask why. And I would say it's because I've had hair loss. I've had hair loss since I was 21, so I started doing this and, it's helping me feel better. And I have these conversations with truly random people. I've had more hair loss wig conversations with random people than I have had with my own family. So the purpose of it was to not live in fear. The purpose of it was because if you can be so strong and have such certainty of self in what you do and how you deliver it and the confidence behind it, the majority of the time, there will be exceptions. I know that there will be, but the majority of times, you'd be surprised how well received it is. It won't always be, and I know that because people have told me their own experiences that were suboptimal, that were negative reactions, and negative reactions can occur. 10,000%. If you're putting yourself on the line, your negative reactions can occur. Telling people expanded to whipping my wig off in public, First, it was like, hey, proving it by touching it. Then it was flipping an ear tab. Then it was me just pulling my wig off in public at the most random times, random places. And this is not something that is new. It's something that I've been doing almost nearly, a decade at least. Wearing wigs is over 12 years, but probably a decade at least whipping my wig off in public. But everyone in my life knew. Everyone in my life knew that I wore wigs and I didn't wear a wig. So they could expect that I would show up with a wig or without a wig, or they could expect that I'd show up with a different color wig, or short or long, or however which way it would be. And they were kind of never surprised at it because that is how I built my life to be. After wearing wigs, I cut my hair into a very short haircut that actually looked like an edgy choice. It wasn't a choice. It was a choice by necessity, so that shorter hair looks thicker. It helped wig wearing be easier, and it helped me not to see the fall as much because I just wanted it to slide out in the shower and not be, traumatized by that, because for me, that's one of the most debilitating aspects is to see the fall. So it did 3 things for me all in one shot. And again, it looks thicker. So I had this shaved tapered nape with a longer front to blend with my closed front wigs. People thought it was an edgy choice, and they saw me with wigs and without. If I went to a pool party, I would show up, so oftentimes with hair, and swimming time, hair came off. I've never, swam in a wig. I don't exercise in a wig. Some women do. There is no right and there's no wrong when it comes to that. There's only what makes you feel good in that process. And this is what I had to do for me in my own life, because I think for my own anxiety, for me to have that personal freedom and be okay with this for the rest of my life, I had to give that gift to myself, I should say. Put it that way, because it was a gift to myself. I'm not afraid of anybody on the street knowing, or I can step outside and pull off my wig right now. The freedom in that is that there is no fear of somebody spotting me without a wig, because they'll spot me without a wig, or finding out I wear a wig. I probably told them already I wore a wig. The amount of times I've lifted up my wig and pulled it off is too many to possibly count. When you do something that much and you see the reactions that people provide, which again, as a whole, for my own life, has not been negative. And I do believe part of that has to do with the confidence I have in what I do. There is nothing wrong with wearing wigs. There's nothing wrong that I had a short haircut or shaving my head or doing any of those things. And it's nothing to be ashamed about, even though we feel shame in hair loss when we had nothing to be shameful about. We didn't do this to ourselves. And I remember I did an interview with Alex Hafner, which is actually Sophie's brother, and it was about dating wigs and hair loss, and asking him his first impressions about when he met me. He met me with hair. I mean, he didn't know I didn't have it. He didn't know it was a wig. And it was for her birthday, and we were in Palm Springs, and true to form. When I'm done with my hair, it's not like I'm, whispering to people that this thing is coming off. Whoever's there saw it on, and in about 5 seconds, they're going to see it off, and that's how they're going to find out. And he was one of the people that found out on the fly in that manner. It was like, we're hanging out, I'm done with my hair. It came off. No formal announcement. It's going to come off. It's just coming off. So most people, I guess, are there, probably except for Sophie, and actually Vika was there as well. They knew I wore wigs, but nobody else really did at that party. And then they all did. And then during that weekend, they saw me with my hair. They saw me without my hair. But I asked him, I said, what did you think about when what was your impression? It's on YouTube. That video is on YouTube. And he's like, I just didn't know. He's like, I didn't think anything. He's like, his reaction was, I just didn't know, which would be normal. How could somebody know right off the bat? A lot of times wigs look pretty natural, that people don't pay attention to them. We think that they do we think people pay attention to things more than they actually do, is what I want to say, because we're paying attention to it or we're looking for it. But oftentimes people are consumed within themselves. They're not really paying attention to those other details on other people. And he's like, the weird thing is, and this was, I'll never forget this, was that he said that you actually you're more confident as being a woman with hair loss and wear wigs. You come across as more confident than women that actually have not even lost their hair.
Yeah. It was funny because I was very surprised when you took off your hair. Whoa, no way. Where's hair? I didn't,
Was it jarring for you? Were you like, oh my, like?
No, it was more like, I was like, oh, I didn't know, I think it has to do maybe with the way you carry yourself. Yeah, like it wasn't.
Does that make it, since I make it like it's not a big deal, it's no big deal for you?
Yeah, like you had it on and then you had it off, and I was like, oh, she has it off. That's cool. Like, hey, kind of dope, Wish I could just change my hair color like this, or but yeah, there was it was very like cool because it's like you were more confident than most people are with hair that don't wear hair.
Thank you, brother. That's awesome.
That was such a huge compliment to me. It was such a powerful thing to me because I'd worked so hard to get to that point. I had struggled so long in my life, in my hair loss, and living in fear and living a hostage to this situation. And someone saying like, you have more confidence than people that haven't even lost hair, and you're whipping yours off, and you have hair loss and wear wigs and you're outward with it, was pretty powerful. And that interview was from actually 2016. But incrementally, as time goes on, I got stronger from even that point. But we can choose how we want to live with this. We do not have to forever live a hostage to this situation. We do not have to forever live under the thumb of somebody finding out. Go out to the mailbox. You don't have your hair. I switched it up. Somebody's going to find out. What's going to happen? What is going to happen? This is a part of my life, very much a part of my life. As much as I always say this, and some people are like, well, that's different because asthma is internal and hair loss is external. Like, I don't know that. But this is as much a part of my life, my situation, as I have asthma, I use an inhaler, I have hair loss. I use wigs because they help me in my life. Yes, I can be seen without them. I prefer to wear them to feel most like myself. I do go out without my hair in specific situations. Sometimes it's convenience. Sometimes it's a matter of function, swimming and exercise and things of that nature. Do I feel my best without my hair? No, I do not. I feel much better with hair than without, for sure. But having the freedom to be able to live both ways, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to choose in your life whether you're going to have your bio hair only or wigs, or somebody's going to find out. It could be a situation in which you share it. It's not comfortable at first, but you share it enough times over and over. Know that what you're doing for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. And you keep that in mind. That muscle gets stronger. You'll be surprised some of the reactions. Not everybody's a terrible human being. Some of the reactions are incredibly favorable. I took my wig off at a restaurant over here, a few weeks back, a steakhouse in Beverly Hills, and I was just making a reel for like Instagram, and it was just going to be like a funny little thing. And there's a lady across the bar, and she's happened to be watching me while I was doing this, and she was smiling when I took it off and was putting it back on, and she raised her glass to me like in cheers and support. And countless bartenders have seen this occurrence. They walk away to go get a drink. They come back and I don't have any hair. There is just such a personal freedom in that. Like I said, it's not for everybody, and I do feel better with hair, but I also want to know that I can exist and feel okay being as I am, which means also without my hair, because I'm not going to be someone that wears my hair 24/7. Some people do. I am not somebody that can. We all can do different things in our lives. And I've realized I will not be somebody that can do that. For me to live my most free life, I have to be able to live with and without hair and make that work in the best possible way for me. And so I encourage everybody to explore all the possibilities that exist in living your wig life. You don't have to choose, just the wig, just your bio, just the bio hair. You don't have to have it be secret unless that feels best for you. If feeling that keeping it to yourself is what feels authentic, then it's not a problem. I feel the problem exists is when we're constantly living in fear. The problem exists is when we feel we're constantly hiding. Then it's a problem. Then it's, to me, worth exploring. How do we get out of this situation? How can we empower ourselves to feel less afraid that other people are going to find out? Where can we get the tools for this? There are tools to do this. Like I said, exposure therapy, things of that nature. But I never got therapy for that, but I'm sure, at this point, there are people that do coaching and stuff for this, but you have options. You do not have to live forever a slave and a hostage to your hair loss and have it dictate your life. I know sometimes people think that they get a wig and that's the end all be all solution, but they forget that there's another part of that. The other part of that is the acceptance of ourselves, because that hair we're putting on is coming off. Even if you're bonding hair, that hair at some point is coming off. So we have to come to terms with what we are dealing with, which is the loss of our hair that, for many of us, will not come back. There are some types of alopecia that is spontaneously reversible. Female pattern baldness is not one of them. It's a progressive hair loss. I have not one type of hair loss, but two. I got a second one, 2022, so I have an inflammatory alopecia and having to relearn to do a bunch of things in my life, like wear different wigs and fumble through that this past year. But it has been a challenge. It wasn't just like I got, tons of street cred for everything before. The whole thing was a new challenge in living with, seeing myself a new way, trying to find new wigs, trying to make peace with this new me that wasn't the case in the previous decade, over 12 years of wearing wigs or whatever, and certainly not since, 21 years of age. Anyways, just remember, there are so many times we can feel so powerless in this. We feel we have no choices because the choices that we have just don't look like the choices that we want. But there are choices. It's just sometimes they're like the suboptimal ones. But sometimes the suboptimal ones can turn out to be some of the most powerful choices you can make in your life. I do not know where I would be had I not started wearing wigs in 2012. Absolutely life-changing. It was a pivotal moment in my life where I then began to realize I had power and control in this. And though it wasn't perfect, they have never been perfect in my life. Wigs are not perfect. No wig has ever been as good as my bio hair. I will never be the person that says that because it's not been true. But they gave me, for the first time at that point in time, it was 13 years, they gave me a glimpse that I could have some control in this. I had the ability to see myself to some degree again the way that I was before I had hair loss. Not in its entirety. It wasn't going to be exact. But that empowered me to make the next decision to cut my hair, which was also powerful. So I wasn't seeing the shed as much, to let go of some of the medications that I was on that I felt trapped on, which was I got back on the birth control pill because that's what kicked it in the first place, and then they put me back on it and I got stuck on it, a quote-unquote hair-friendly pill, which I don't believe exists at all. It's a different story. And 200 milligrams of aldactone. I was stuck on that for 13 years. It empowered me to get off those things that were making me feel not great. I never felt good about taking them. I didn't feel that they were helping. I don't know how I would have been otherwise had I not taken it. I just didn't feel good about it. So starting to wear wigs was the starting point of acceptance and change in my life. It was the starting point of being able to regain my life back. In and of itself, it wasn't the magic bullet. You throw the wig on your head and it's like your hair loss never happened. But it was the tool that began this positive domino effect to reclaiming my life. It doesn't have to be a wig. It could be something else in somebody else's life. And sometimes it's just a mindset change. Sometimes Sometimes it's a different type of alternative hair system. There are many out there for people to choose from, or fibers, or whatever it is. The thing is that I think none of us should give up on ourselves and write ourselves off for the rest of our life. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, because when we die and we're going down into the dirt or into the incinerator, nobody's going to be giving out any awards for the best hair ever. I've said this a million times. What will matter is how we lived and who we were for ourselves, for our friends, for our family, and the difference that we made in this world. No awards for best hair ever. Not that hair doesn't matter. I know that as well as anybody. I know I had what I felt my life stolen from me due to hair loss in my 20s. And I also know the possibility to reclaim your life, even in the most difficult of circumstances, even if you get a second hair loss on your, when you're already 22, 20, whatever, how many years was into my hair loss by 2022. But we are capable and so strong. We're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And yes, we may fumble and fall along the way. We may melt down, cry after years of not crying, feel like we slipped backwards, but we didn't, because we're striving the whole way forward. And every single thing we do in this regard of helping ourselves is an act of getting stronger within this process to help reclaim our lives. I don't think any of us have anything to be ashamed about in having hair loss or wearing wigs. I don't think we can hide it if we want to hide it, but I don't think we should feel that we need to hide it because of the fear perception of other people. When you make peace with that part about it, when you empower yourself in that aspect of it, everything changes. Everything changes. So that is the reason why I choose to tell people I have hair loss and I wear wigs, not simply online. I do it largely offline all the time. It's liberating. It's empowering. It's not for everybody, but it is an option. There's no one way to live with hair loss. The only way that is the way to live with hair loss is the way that works for you.